Hello. All right. So we're going to walk you through document A and using the document to fill in this document analysis sheet. So you'll need to, in your document packet, find document A, and then in your analysis sheet packet, find the one that says document A up here and federalism in the bottom corner down here. So I'll give you a second to get those two things out. Now notice that I am going to go ahead and give you the bucket that this document is going to fall under. Normally when you do your DBQs, it's up to you to analyze your documents and then come up with your buckets. For this one, I'm kind of giving you those buckets ahead of time and giving you the document that goes with each bucket. So this one is federalism. All right, so the first thing we'll look at on our document is our source information, which is shown here circled in red. We're going to use that to fill in these three boxes right here. So we're first going to look at our source, or where did the document come from. That is, of course, Federalist Paper number 51, as it says right here. My date, it gives me the year 1788. And the author is James Madison, who we know, of course, is a well-known Federalist and is known as the father of the Constitution since he was the main author. I'll give you all a second to fill in that source information. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is this a primary or a secondary source? So if you'll remember, a primary source means that it comes from the time period being studied, and a secondary source means it comes from a time period after the time period studied. So if we look at the date here, 1788, we know the Constitution was written in 1787, so it's right around the same time period, so it would indeed be a primary source. It's also important to always look at any possible author bias or look at the author's point of view, so we can look at anything that might influence what they're saying. And since we know that James Madison was a Federalist, and we know that the Federalists were trying to convince people to ratify or approve the Constitution, I would say there's definitely some bias there, since he's trying his hardest to convince people. So I'll let y'all fill in that box for bias. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and look at our document. So we'll read this part here first. In the compound Republic of America, the power surrendered by the people is first divided between two distinct governments, and the portion allotted to each subdivided among distinct and separate departments. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will each control each other at the same time that each will be controlled by itself. Then there's a note at the bottom that says Madison's idea of division of power between central and state governments is known as federalism. Specific power divisions can be seen in the chart below. So that's kind of a review of what that principle of federalism means. Keep in mind that when we use the word central here, that is talking about the federal or the national government. Okay, so kind of don't let that word confuse you. All right, so now we're going to look at filling in our chart. So we're going to look at the significant facts that are going to go here, any inferences we can make from those facts here, and then how does this help us to answer that big question, which is how does the Constitution guard against tyranny? That we're going to fill in right here. So the part I want to look at in the section right here is this underlined section. The power surrendered by the people is first divided between two distinct governments, and the portion allotted to each subdivided among distinct and separate departments. So I'm just going to kind of summarize and write that one part in that box. And then I use that part from the note to jot down that it's called federalism. I'll give you all a second to fill that in. And then next I'm going to look at the diagram down here. So on this side, I have the powers given to the central government or the national government. So regulate trade, conduct foreign relations, provide an army and a navy, declare war, print and coin money, set up post offices, make immigration laws. You'll notice that a lot of that is things that the government could not do under the Articles of Confederation. So then things that the states could do: set up local governments, hold elections, establish schools, pass marriage and divorce laws, and regulate in-state business. Then we also have this information in the middle part here that's shaded that tells us the powers that are shared between both the states and the central government. Things like taxing, borrowing money, setting up courts, making laws, and enforcing laws. Okay, so for my next significant fact, I'm just going to jot down that both the states and national governments have different powers and share some powers. Okay, so now I have 2 items in my significant facts. Keep in mind that there's not a distinct number of facts you need to have for each document. You just need to be writing down all the facts that are important to answer your question. So these are the only 2 that I need to answer my question from this document. So that's why I only have 2. If you need 3 or 4 or maybe even 5, then write down as many facts as you need to help answer that question. All right, so the next thing we have to do is we have to come up with inferences about those facts. So what does it mean? Okay. So I know using those facts that the principle of federalism keeps both the national government and the state government from being too powerful. So that's my inference. Nowhere does it say in this document that it's going to keep the government from being too powerful, but that's what I can infer. That's what I know given these facts. Okay, so I'll let you fill in the inference. All right, and the last thing we're going to do is fill in how does this document help us to answer that question. And again, our question is, how does the Constitution guard against tyranny? So this division of power helps to protect the country from tyranny of the state or of the federal government. Okay, so that's how it relates to answering my question. And the very last thing I would do is fill in the main idea of the document. So just overall, what is it saying? What's the main idea? And that is that federalism protects us against tyranny. Okay. Now, we are not writing the essay for this document, but if we did, your essay is pretty much right here. Okay, it would be very easy to take this information and turn it into an essay. And we will probably do that in the future when we do DBQs. Today, for this one, we're just analyzing those documents. All right, so you are going to complete the document analysis for documents B, C, and D on your own. So best of luck to you.